Ambassador Na-Hai walked through the long hallway toward the Galactic Council chambers. Her black shoes clicked on the smooth metal floor. She had walked this same path every day for 3 years. Today felt different. Today felt heavier. The massive doors opened in front of her. Inside, representatives from 47 different alien species sat in a circle. Some looked like giant insects. Others had scales like fish. A few glowed with their own light. But all of them looked at Na-Hai the same way. They looked at her like she did not belong. Na-Hai took her seat at the small human section. Next to her sat General Park Jin. His military uniform was neat and clean, but his face looked tired. Behind them, 3 other human advisors opened their data tablets. They did this same thing every day. High Chancellor Vextar stood up from across the room. He was tall and covered in gray scales. His yellow eyes fixed on Na-Hai. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. The Vortak Empire brings another complaint against the humans, he announced. Yesterday, a human cargo ship entered our territory without permission. Na-Hai stood up slowly. She had heard this kind of accusation many times before. High Chancellor, our ship was carrying medical supplies to the Kepler colony. We filed the proper travel documents 2 weeks ago. Your documents mean nothing, Vextar replied. The Kepler system belongs to ancient Vortak space. Humans have no business there. Other species in the room whispered to each other. Na-Hai noticed that none of them spoke up for humanity. The Kepler colony had been a human settlement for 15 years. Everyone in this room knew that. But no one said anything. General Park Jin leaned forward in his chair. His hand moved slightly toward his communication device. Na-Hai placed her hand on his arm and shook her head once. Not yet. High Chancellor, Na-Hai said, the Galactic Treaty of 2387 clearly states that settled colonies maintain their territorial rights. Kepler colony has been registered with this council since its founding. Vextar made a sound like laughter, but it was not friendly. Treaties written by young species mean little to those of us who have traveled the stars for thousands of years. Senator Kilmora, a blue-skinned representative from the Altarian Republic, tapped her long fingers on her desk. Perhaps we should review the territorial claims, she suggested. But her voice was weak. She did not really want to challenge the Vortak. There is nothing to review, Vextar said. The humans will remove their colony from Kepler or we will remove it for them. Na-Hai felt her heart beat faster. This was the 3rd colony the Vortak had threatened this month. Each time the Galactic Council had done nothing. Each time humanity had stepped back to avoid conflict. The Kepler colony houses 40,000 people, Na-Hai said. Many of them are not human. There are Altarian families, Zeltran refugees, even some Vortak citizens who chose to live there. You would displace all of them. Non-Vortak living in Vortak space are there illegally, Vextar replied. They can leave or face the consequences. General Park Jin shifted in his seat again. Na-Hai could feel the anger radiating from him. She understood why. For 30 years, humanity had tried to be good galactic citizens. They followed every rule. They helped other species when asked. They shared their technology and medical knowledge freely. And for 30 years, species like the Vortak had pushed them around. We request a formal hearing on this matter, Na-Hai said. According to council procedures, territorial disputes require a full investigation. Chancellor Vextar's yellow eyes narrowed. The Vortak Empire does not wait for investigations. We act. He looked around the room at the other representatives. The humans are weak. They hide behind laws and procedures because they cannot defend themselves. This council wastes time listening to their complaints. Na-Hai stood perfectly still. Inside she felt something cold and hard forming in her chest. But outside she remained calm. Humanity believes in the law because the law protects everyone, she said. Even species that seem to have forgotten what protection means. Some representatives looked uncomfortable now. They knew the Vortak were being unreasonable. But they also knew the Vortak had the largest fleet in this part of the galaxy. General Park Jin touched his communication device. A soft beep told him he had received a message. He read it quickly, then leaned over to whisper in Na-Hai's ear. The 7th Fleet is in position, he said quietly. Admiral Yun Bo requests permission to respond. Na-Hai looked at the message on her own device. Numbers and locations scrolled past. Ship names. Weapon counts. Troop numbers. For a moment she imagined what would happen if she said yes. But that was not the human way. Not yet. Tell Admiral Yun to maintain position, she whispered back. We try diplomacy first. General Park Jin nodded, but his jaw was tight. He sent the message. Chancellor Vextar was still talking, making more threats and more demands. The other species continued to say nothing. Nahai sat back down and folded her hands. She would be patient. Humanity would be patient. But patience was not unlimited. Captain Li Min stared at the screen in front of him. His cargo ship, the Morning Star, was carrying medicine to 3 different colonies. People were sick and dying waiting for these supplies. But for the past 2 hours, Vortak warships had been blocking his path. "Sir, they're demanding we submit to inspection," reported his communications officer, Ensign Park AE. "Again?" Li Min asked. "This was the 3rd time this month. What do they want to inspect this time?" "They say our medical supplies might be weapons in disguise." Li Min felt anger rising in his chest, but he kept his voice calm. "Tell them we'll transmit our cargo manifests. Everything is listed and sealed according to galactic health standards." The Vortak response came back quickly. "They say manifests can be faked. They want to board and inspect every container. How long will that take?" "They estimate 4 weeks, sir." 4 weeks. Li Min looked at his medical reports. The plague on Kepler colony was killing 50 people every day. The children's medicine would expire in 10 days if it was not delivered soon. But he had his orders from Earth Command: avoid conflict at all costs. "Tell them we agree to inspection," he said quietly. 3 days later, Ambassador Nahai received an emergency message in her apartment. She was eating breakfast when Captain Chomi called her. "Ma'am, we have a problem. The Vortak just seized the Harmony Station." Nahai nearly dropped her coffee cup. "What do you mean seized?" "They sent troops to take control. They're calling it a temporary security measure, while they investigate human activities in the sector." Harmony Station was a trade hub that humans had built 5 years ago. It was in neutral space, not in anyone's territory. Merchants from dozens of species came there to buy and sell goods. It was completely legal under galactic law. "What about the people on the station?" Nahai asked. "About 300 humans and 800 aliens. The Vortak are holding everyone until their investigation is complete." "How long will that take?" "They won't say." Nahai closed her eyes. This was getting worse every week. First the mining stations, then the cargo ships, now the trade hubs. The Vortak were taking everything they wanted and using legal excuses to do it. "Schedule an emergency council session," she said. "We need to file a formal protest." But the Galactic Council was in no hurry to help. Senator Kilmora from the Altarian Republic listened to Nahai's complaint with a sad expression. "This is very unfortunate," she said. "But the Vortak do have the right to investigate security threats in their region." "Harmony Station is not in their region," Nahai replied. "It's in neutral space." "Well, yes, technically. But the Vortak consider that area to be within their sphere of influence." General Park Jean leaned forward. "Since when do we recognize spheres of influence?" "That's not in any treaty." Senator Kilmora looked uncomfortable. "Perhaps we could form a committee to study the issue." "People are being held prisoner," Nahai said. "We don't need a committee. We need action." But no action came. Days turned into weeks. The Vortak found new reasons to delay their investigation. Meanwhile, they stripped Harmony Station of its valuable equipment and claimed it as evidence. The pattern continued across human space. Vortak ships appeared wherever humans were doing business. They demanded inspections, seized property, and arrested anyone who protested. Each time they had a legal excuse. Each time the Galactic Council did nothing. Dr. Lee So brought the worst news to a meeting in Nahai's office. "They've cut off communications to the Aurora colony," she reported. 40,000 people and we can't contact them at all." "What's their excuse this time?" asked Minister Kim Do. "They say Aurora colony might be transmitting military codes. They've jammed all signals until they can investigate." "How long?" Nahai asked, though she already knew the answer. "Indefinitely." General Park Jean stood up and walked to the window. Outside, he could see the Galactic Council building where Nahai spent her days asking for help that never came. His communication device buzzed with messages from human military commanders across the galaxy. They all said the same thing: "Let us respond. Let us show these aliens what happens when they push too far." "The Third Fleet could clear the Aurora system in 6 hours," he said quietly. "No," Nahai replied. "We follow the law. We trust the system." "The system doesn't work," Park Jean said. "They take what they want and nobody stops them. If we start a war, millions of people will die. People are already dying. They're just dying slowly." Nahai looked at her reports. Colonies cut off from supplies. Trade ships seized for no reason. Mining stations stolen. Citizens held prisoner. Every week brought new outrages, and every week the Galactic Council found new reasons to do nothing. The other species were afraid of the Vorthak military power. They would rather sacrifice human rights than risk Vorthak anger. It was easier to let humanity suffer than to stand up for what was right. We'll file another protest, Nahai said. General Park Jean nodded, but his jaw was tight with frustration. How many more protests would they file? How many more times would they ask politely for justice that never came? Outside the window, Vorthak warships patrolled the space around the council station. They were a reminder to everyone. The Vorthak took what they wanted and nobody could stop them. At least nobody had tried yet. The emergency alarm woke Captain Yoon-hye at 3 a.m. She rolled out of her bed on the hospital ship Mercy and ran to the bridge. Her medical officer, Dr. Kim Woo, was already there looking at the communication screen. "What's happening?" she asked. "We're receiving a distress call from Centauri Prime," Dr. Kim said. "Massive earthquake. The planet's main hospital collapsed. They're asking for immediate medical evacuation." Captain Yoon-hye looked at the star charts. Centauri Prime was in neutral space, 3 days away at maximum speed. How many casualties? Unknown. But they're saying thousands of people are trapped. Many are children. "Set course immediately," she ordered. "Send word to Earth Command that we're responding to emergency medical situation." The Mercy was humanity's largest hospital ship. It had beds for 5,000 patients and surgery rooms that could handle the worst injuries. The crew of 800 included the best doctors and nurses from Earth. They had saved millions of lives across the galaxy. 2 days later they reached Centauri Prime. The planet was a disaster zone. Huge cracks split the ground where cities used to stand. Rescue ships from 12 different species were already working to pull survivors from the wreckage. "Captain," called Communications Officer Park Min, "we're being contacted by the planetary government." On the screen appeared Governor Zalthan, a blue-skinned Alterian. Behind him, Yoon-hye could see wounded people lying on stretchers. "Captain, thank the stars you're here. We have over 3,000 critically injured. Our medical facilities are completely destroyed. We're prepared to take everyone who needs help," Yoon-hye replied. "Start sending up the worst cases first." For 18 hours, rescue shuttles flew back and forth between the planet and the Mercy. The ship's corridors filled with patients from dozens of different species. Human doctors worked side by side with alien medics, trying to save as many lives as possible. Dr. Kim Woo found Captain Yoon-hye in Medical Bay 7, where she was helping move patients. "Captain, we're at capacity. 5,000 patients on board. Any more coming up? About 200 children are still critical. The planetary hospitals just don't have the equipment to treat them. Bring them up. We'll make room somehow." The last shuttle arrived just as the ship's sensors detected incoming vessels. "Captain," reported Ensign Lida from the bridge. 6 Vorthak warships approaching fast. Yoon-hye felt her stomach drop. "Are we in Vorthak territory?" "No ma'am. We're in neutral space responding to a medical emergency." The Vorthak ships surrounded the Mercy within minutes. The lead ship sent a message: "Human vessel, you are operating illegally in space under Vorthak protection. Prepare to be boarded for inspection." Captain Yoon-hye returned to the bridge. "Open a channel," she ordered. "This is Captain Yoon-hye of the hospital ship Mercy. We are conducting medical evacuation under Galactic Emergency Response Protocols. We have over 5,000 injured civilians on board." The Vorthak commander appeared on screen. His scales were dark green, and his yellow eyes showed no emotion. "I am Battle Commander Nexval. You will submit to immediate inspection. Cut your engines and prepare for boarding." "Commander, we have critically injured patients who need immediate surgery. Any delay could cost lives." "That is not our concern. You have 30 minutes to prepare for inspection." Dr. Kim Woo stepped forward. "Captain, Surgery Bay 3 has 15 children who won't survive without constant life support. If we shut down engines, we lose power to the medical systems." Yoon-hye turned back to the screen. "Commander Nexval, please reconsider. These are innocent civilians, including many children. They need medical care, not inspection. All vessels in Vorthak space must be inspected. No exceptions. We're not in Vorthak space." Yoon-hye said, her voice rising. "This is neutral territory. Vorthak Empire now claims protection rights over this sector. Your presence here is illegal." The inspection began 2 hours later. Vorthak soldiers stomped through the medical bays in their heavy boots. They pushed past doctors trying to work. They demanded to see every patient's identification. They accused the medical staff of hiding weapons among the medical supplies. During the inspection, the power grid fluctuated. Life support systems failed for 6 minutes. 3 children died while Vortak soldiers searched their medical equipment for hidden military technology. "This is insane," Dr. Kim whispered to Captain Yoon-hae. "They're killing people with this inspection." The final insult came when Battle Commander Nexval declared that the Mercy was actually a disguised military transport, because it had defensive shields. He ordered all patients to be transferred to Vortak custody for further investigation. "These people are refugees from a natural disaster," Yoon-hae protested. "They're not criminals." "That will be determined by Vortak authorities," Nexval replied. "All non-Vortak species found in our protected space must be processed through proper channels." Captain Yoon-hae watched helplessly as Vortak soldiers loaded unconscious children onto prison transports. Families were separated. Patients were torn away from life support machines. The wounded were treated like criminals. She sent an emergency message to the Galactic Council, requesting immediate intervention. The response came 8 hours later. "The Council will investigate this matter. A committee will be formed to study the situation." Captain Yoon-hae stared at the message for a long time. Then she opened a secure channel to Earth Command. "This is Captain Yoon-hae," she said quietly. "I am formally requesting permission to defend my patients by any means necessary." The children were crying in the Vortak prison ships. The committee would meet next month. And humanity had finally had enough. Admiral Yoon-bo stood on the bridge of the battleship Thunder. Around him, his officers worked quietly at their stations. For 36 hours they had been waiting for orders. The entire 7th Fleet hung in empty space, hidden behind a dead moon. "Admiral," called Commander Kim Un from the communications station. "We're receiving the final message from Earth Command." The message was short: "Operation begins now. Bring them home." Admiral Yoon-bo had been waiting 30 years for these words. He turned to face his crew. "All ships, this is Admiral Yoon-bo. Execute Operation Thunderstorm. Show them who we really are." Across the galaxy, 67 human fleets received the same message at exactly the same time. Ships that had been disguised as cargo vessels suddenly revealed their true nature. What looked like peaceful exploration ships opened hidden weapon bays. Mining platforms that had been abandoned for months suddenly came to life with massive defensive systems. The Vortak Empire had no idea what was coming. In the Kepler system, where the hospital ship Mercy still sat surrounded by Vortak guards, space suddenly filled with light. 12 human warships appeared from hyperspace in perfect formation. They had been traveling for 3 days at maximum speed. Battle Commander Nexval was eating his evening meal when his alarm systems exploded with warnings. "Sir," shouted his tactical officer. "Human warships have surrounded us." "Impossible," Nexval replied. "Humans don't have warships." But when he looked at his screen he saw ships unlike anything in the Vortak military. They were sleek and black, covered with weapons he did not recognize. Energy readings showed power levels that should have been impossible for vessels of their size. "This is Admiral Lee Soo of the Human Defense Force," came a voice over the communication system. "You have exactly 60 seconds to release all prisoners and withdraw from this system." Nexval laughed. "Human, you are outnumbered 6 to 12. Surrender now or we will destroy you." 50 seconds, Admiral Lee Soo replied calmly. "Open fire on the human ships." Nexval ordered. The Vortak warships launched their missiles. But something impossible happened. The human ships simply disappeared. For 3 seconds they were gone completely. Then they reappeared behind the Vortak fleet. "What was that?" Nexval screamed at his science officer. "Unknown technology, sir. Some kind of short-range teleportation." The human ships opened fire. But these were not normal weapons. Beams of pure energy cut through Vortak shields like they were made of paper. In 30 seconds all 6 Vortak warships were floating dead in space, their crews alive but their ships completely powerless. "This is Admiral Lee Soo," came the voice again. "Prisoners will be released immediately. Medical teams are standing by." Similar scenes played out across 12 star systems. Vortak fleets that had terrorized the galaxy for decades found themselves helpless against human technology they had never seen before. Ships equipped with quantum teleportation systems. Weapons that disrupted matter at the atomic level. Defense fields that made ships nearly invisible. On the Vortak homeworld, High Chancellor Vex Tar received reports of disaster from every corner of his empire. "How many fleets have we lost?" he demanded. "All of them, sir," his military advisor replied with a shaking voice. Every Vorthak military vessel in human space has been captured or destroyed. But sir, they're not killing anyone. This was true. Human forces had been given strict orders: disable enemy ships, capture enemy soldiers, but cause no unnecessary deaths. Every Vorthak crew member was captured alive and treated according to galactic law. The most shocking moment came when human cyber warfare specialists, led by Colonel Park G, infiltrated the entire Vorthak communication network. In one coordinated attack, they shut down every military computer, every defense satellite, and every automated weapon system in the Vorthak Empire. How is this possible? Vextar asked his technical staff. Our systems were supposed to be unhackable. Sir, his chief scientist replied, the humans have been inside our networks for years. They knew every password, every security code, every weakness. They were just waiting. The truth was even more shocking than Vextar realized. For 30 years, while humanity had been playing the role of peaceful diplomats, their real scientists and engineers had been preparing for war. Every human exploration ship had been secretly mapping Vorthak military installations. Every trade mission had been gathering intelligence. Every diplomatic meeting had been a chance to study enemy technology. Captain Chomi, who had sat quietly in Galactic Council meetings for 4 years, revealed that she was actually Colonel Chomi, head of human intelligence operations. Dr. Lee So, the peaceful science advisor, was really Dr. Lee So, creator of humanity's most advanced weapon systems. The Vorthak Empire, which had controlled this part of the galaxy for 500 years, collapsed in 72 hours. Every human prisoner was freed. Every stolen colony was returned. Every seized ship was recovered. Other species watched in amazement and terror. The Alterians sent a message to Earth Command: "We had no idea humans possessed such capabilities." The response from Admiral Yun Bo was simple: "We prefer peace. But we are very good at war." When the last Vorthak prison ship surrendered, the children from the hospital ship Mercy were finally safe. Captain Yun Hei held a small Alterian girl who had been crying for her mother. Now she was smiling. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. Ambassador Ji Sun walked into the Galactic Council chambers for the first time. She was younger than Nahai, who had held this job for 4 years. But everything felt different now. The air itself seemed to vibrate with change. The seating arrangement had been completely reorganized. The human section was no longer in the back corner. Now it sat in the front row with a clear view of every other species. The seats were bigger too. There were 12 of them instead of 5. Behind Ji Sun sat General Park Jin, who was now Defense Minister Park Jin. Next to him was Admiral Yun Bo, the hero of Operation Thunderstorm. Dr. Lee So had become Science Director Lee So, and her new title reflected humanity's growing influence in galactic research. The other species entered the chamber quietly. The Alterians moved quickly to their seats, avoiding eye contact with the humans. The Zenthari clicked nervously as they arranged themselves. Even the energy beings called the Luxari seemed dimmer than usual. Where the Vorthak section used to be, there was empty space. High Chancellor Vextar was in a prison cell on Kepler Station, awaiting trial for war crimes. His entire government had surrendered after their military collapsed. "The session will begin," announced the council speaker. But even the ancient jellyfish-like creature sounded different. More respectful. More careful. "The council recognizes Ambassador Ji Sun of the Human Federation," the speaker continued. Ji Sun stood up slowly. She looked around the room at 46 different species, all watching her with nervous attention. 6 months ago, these same aliens had ignored humanity's calls for help. They had sat quietly while the Vorthak committed crimes against human civilians. "Thank you," Ji Sun said. Her voice was calm and clear. "The Human Federation has prepared new proposals for galactic law." Senator Kilmora from the Alterian Republic raised her hand. "Ambassador, we want to express our deep regret for not supporting humanity during the recent crisis." "Recent crisis?" Ji Sun repeated. "You mean when the Vorthak kidnapped thousands of refugees, including children, from a hospital ship?" "Yes, that unfortunate incident." Ji Sun smiled, but it was not a warm smile. "Senator Kilmora, the Human Federation appreciates your regret. But regret does not bring back the 3 children who died during the Vorthak inspection of medical equipment." The chamber became very quiet. Everyone remembered the hospital ship Mercy. Everyone remembered watching human children die while Vorthak soldiers searched for weapons that did not exist. "The Human Federation proposes 3 new laws," Ji Sun continued. "First, Medical vessels responding to emergencies will be completely protected. Any attack on hospital ships or medical personnel will be considered a war crime. Nods around the room. No one wanted to argue with that. Second, no species may claim ancient territorial rights without providing documented proof accepted by this council. Territory belongs to those who legally settle and develop it. More nods. This law would prevent future Vortex-style land grabs. Third, the council will establish rapid response protocols. When one member species requests help, the council must act within 72 hours, not 72 weeks. Senator Kilmora looked uncomfortable. These are significant changes to how we operate. Yes, they are, Ji-sun agreed. The old system failed. It failed the people who died on Centauri Prime while the Vortex played political games. It failed the miners trapped on their stations. It failed every species that needed help but was too weak to demand it. Admiral Yunbo leaned forward in his seat. The Human Federation will enforce these laws if the Council cannot. The threat hung in the air like electricity. Everyone had seen what human enforcement looked like. Vortex fleets destroyed in hours. Military networks shut down by invisible cyber attacks. Ships that could disappear and reappear anywhere in space. Of course, Ji-sun said, humanity prefers cooperation to enforcement. We would rather work together than fight. She gestured to the data tablets her team was distributing. These contain offers of human technology sharing. Medical advances that could save millions of lives. Energy systems that are clean and unlimited. Defensive technologies to protect against raiders and pirates. The representatives opened their tablets eagerly. For 30 years humans had shared their knowledge freely. Human doctors had cured diseases that had plagued other species for centuries. Human engineers had designed better ships, better computers, better everything. But, Ji-sun continued and her voice became harder, these benefits come with responsibility. Species that attack civilians, steal territory, or ignore calls for help will not receive human assistance. A small alien called Reptar from the Kelvin Confederacy raised his hand. Ambassador, what about species that supported the Vortex actions? Each case will be reviewed individually, Ji-sun replied. But the Human Federation has a long memory. The vote on the new laws was unanimous. Every species agreed to the medical protection protocols. Every species accepted the new territorial rules. Every species promised to respond quickly to emergency situations. As the session ended, Senator Kilmora approached Ji-sun. Ambassador, the Altarian Republic wants to make amends for our past inaction. How? Ji-sun asked. We're prepared to offer our jumpgate technology to human colonies. Free passage throughout Altarian space. Ji-sun considered this. And in return? We hope for continued human friendship. Ji-sun nodded slowly. Friendship is earned, Senator. But it can be earned. As she left the chamber, Ji-sun reflected on how much had changed. Humanity was no longer the species that asked politely for justice. They were the species that guaranteed it. The galaxy was safer now. And everyone knew why.